Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hardcourt Hunnies presents hashtag NBA Twitter. It's our second week in. Thank you to everybody joining us live. If you are watching the recording later on, thanks for taking the time to go over some of the best that NBA Twitter had to offer this week. How's it going, Taylor?
Good. I'm excited for these tweets. Last week was great, and so I'm excited to see what we got going on this week.
I feel like I have some pretty good things for you. I feel like there's a chance we might be a little bit anticlimactic because the first tweet I have for you is pretty interesting. So we're going to go to the split screen.
Okay.
And I'm hiding the details from you because right now I just want you to see and react to this picture. Are you ready?
Yes. How did you get my high school pictures? Where did you get these?
Do you recognize who that is?
I mean, once they say Coos, then yeah, now I see it. But
I forgot that it came up on the side. So I came across that last night and I looked at it. I looked at it again. And then I Googled his regular pictures from the season. I was like, whoa.
So he looks like a guy that is so my fiance is from Mexico, looks like in a cologne commercial in Mexico.
That's what I said too. I'm like, he looks like a Mexican dude. Between the tan and the mustache.
But he's, I mean, sexy. But the mustache is almost too perfect.
Right?
That is the one thing. I don't know how he got that above the lip game, because that one, I always cut my lip with that. So I'm curious with that, how he got that going.
So maybe we should tweet him and see if we can get him to divulge his mustache.
How did you get that cut? Are you going to the barber? Or are you pulling that yourself? And also his tattoo on his shoulder, I thought was body hair. And I was just like, oh, but no, that was just a tattoo. I was like, that's a lot.
So I guess we have to figure, with everything being shut down, he must be taking care of it himself.
I mean, I'm assuming
or he's got a girlfriend
him
taking care of it for him. I feel like those are the options.
Someone's taking care of him.
Okay, moving on. That was totally worth it, as I thought it would be. So I'm glad I found that last night. Okay, so that tweet was from @Tom_YSL. We're going to move on to our next one from @PeteSay1NBA. And he's asking about an article that he wrote, asking, should the Philadelphia 76ers pursue Donovan Mitchell? How do you feel about that? I really couldn't decide. I couldn't come to...
I honestly don't think, no matter what you do with Philadelphia's team, they're not going to win. I just don't think it's going to, win a title. They're going to win. They're the new Clippers.
They're going to be playoffs.
They're the new Clippers. Great regular season team.
Yeah.
But as of right now, for me, I'm a little biased because Embiid and his, yeah. But I'll respect the
really
talent.
Didn't say anything there, Taylor.
Donovan Mitchell, Ben Simmons is only effective with the ball in his hands.
True.
And Donovan Mitchell,
he's an incredible passer, though.
No, exactly.
But he's that's the thing. Guard. That's where he's supposed to be most effective.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. But Donovan Mitchell, to me at least, is a player that also needs the ball in his hands.
So
I don't see
if they pursue him, it needs to be in place of and not in addition to.
They need someone like a JJ Redick. They need someone to replace. They need someone that could catch and shoot, because Donovan Mitchell is a scorer, not necessarily a shooter. He can shoot the ball occasionally, but he can kind of do it all. While then, you say just a shooter is JJ Redick. He may not be a big time scorer, but he's a shooter.
Okay, so if the premise was hypothetically, we're going to move on from Ben Simmons, we're going to keep Joel Embiid.
Oh, then yes.
Go for Donovan Mitchell.
Yes. Okay. But Ben Simmons is a player that needs the ball, and he's too good not to be having that ball in his hands.
Yeah. You can't add another player that needs the ball to him because you're canceling them out.
Exactly. If Donovan Mitchell ended up in Philadelphia, it would be Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons would be traded.
So in terms of at the beginning, you said you think Philadelphia is the Clippers. So is this an organizational problem?
Yes.
And where do the changes need to be made?
I think do they still have Sam Hinkie?
I believe so.
And then they also need Brett Brown I thought he was on the hot spot. He was on the hot seat this year before the season ended. Right. I thought he was one of those coaches where, like, if you don't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, like,
we're moving on.
Yep. He was good at first. He's like maybe he's like Mark Jackson. He set everything up for Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr made it better. But Mark
Dwayne Casey.
What?
Or whoever was I'm blanking on the coach before Phil Jackson for the Bulls. Like the coach
before Phil Collins. No, not Phil Collins. No. Doug Collins.
Doug
Collins.
It reminds me of that movie. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but the premise of the movie was every time a guy dated somebody, the next person was like their person. So he was always the guy before. So I feel like there's a group of NBA coaches who have always been the guy before.
The guys before. I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
I think Budenholzer might be that guy as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's a great regular season coach.
Oh, the movie's called Good Luck Chuck for anybody who
Good Luck Chuck.
Want to know about
I think I've actually who's in that one?
One of the guys from American Pie, the big nose. I'm terrible with celebrities' names. And Dane Cook. I want to say Dane Cook's in it.
Oh, yes. I know what movie you're talking about. Yeah. I know what movie you're talking about.
Okay, so.
You got another one for me?
To summarize, in some situations, in the right situation, yes, Philadelphia should pursue Donovan Mitchell. So we're going to go on to our next tweet. This one is from @KOT4Q. There's speculation that the Spurs are going to move to Las Vegas in the next half decade or 5 years.
No, that's terrible. That is terrible. San Antonio's the definition of how you run a small market team. They have too much of a following.
To be worth moving.
They're not going to move. They're not going to move.
What if they did? Hypothetically.
Why does every team have to go to Vegas? Like,
I'm actually surprised there aren't more teams in Vegas already. I'm surprised it took them that long.
There's already too much debauchery. You don't need.
There's lots of other things to do in Vegas too.
The gambling, like, man, no. Vegas already has its own things going on.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: is your reaction based on the fact that you don't think Vegas could use a basketball team, or the fact that going to Vegas would ruin your shiny image of San Antonio in your head?
Both.
Okay.
Vegas is slummy, and then you're bringing the best ran small market team in the NBA and arguably in sports, and you're putting it to that. Like, with Greg Popovich.
Pop's gonna retire.
I know Pop is gonna be gone. Pop is gonna be gone. But, like, I think they should stick with the mentality. Like, if Pop saw that, would he be like, "Come on, guys"?
So from now on,
you're not. If anything, it's gonna be Charlotte because Jordan.
Charlotte's already got a team. Where are the Hornets going?
They're gonna move to Vegas. If anything, it's not gonna be the Spurs.
They're gonna move.
It's not gonna be the Spurs.
Okay. Yeah. I think that does make more sense. But back to the Spurs. So what I'm hearing you say is that from now until the end of the San Antonio Spurs organization, their motto should be WWPD. What would Pop do?
Yeah. Well, they're going to have Tim Duncan as head coach too now. So, like, it's just the continuing followings of Popovich.
All right.
Coach Popo.
I'll take it. I do think what you said about it would be more likely that Charlotte goes there is probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. I saw something with Charlotte. They have been to the playoffs like since the franchise started, less than the Timberwolves. And they started the same time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? Oh. Oh my gosh. Then again, I did remind me of the Bobcats. Like I said, I got lost on that rabbit hole.
I'm going to pull you back out now. We're going to go on to our next tweet.
Yeah, bounce to that. I don't want to go think about the Bobcats anymore.
Okay, this comes from @SprungOnSports. He writes for Forbes Sports. He makes a case for Mike D'Antoni being the best realistic option for the Brooklyn Nets, next head coach, assuming he doesn't re-up with the Rockets. What do you think?
I mean, he is an offensive genius, and you have some of the best offensive players in the game with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving that are fully healthy.
Right.
Then again, I don't like Mike D'Antoni, so I really don't care what he does. I will say if he goes there, Eastern Conference Finals.
Based on the combination of his offensive abilities and healthy Kyrie and KD, both.
I still Eastern Conference Finals just because D'Antoni, I don't think his system can win a title. His offensive scheme is like Don Nelson with the Warriors in like the 90s and stuff where it was not the Warriors, Dallas in the early 2000s. It was run and gun stuff, high offense, very limited defense.
Right.
And it was great basketball to watch. And it was also, you could get wins in the season, but once the game slows down, like
it's not effective anymore.
Your weaknesses show up.
Yeah. Well, and at the time too, like the game was overall slower at the time that you're talking about too. So that makes, in comparison, his strategy is even less effective now that everyone's playing a bit faster. I mean, at the time he was outrunning everybody, and that's not reality anymore in terms of the pace the game is played at.
Yes. I mean, I will admit he's offensive. He is a visionary with things. He was a person that kind of changed, but he can only coach offense.
Yeah.
He's always had some of the worst defenses ever. With the Phoenix Suns, Sean Marion saved his butt, and Raja Bell saved their butt defensively.
So we like him for the Nets, but it's not going to make a difference in terms.
It's not going to make a difference. It's
not going all the way. All right, I can roll with that.
It's not going to matter.
Okay, I feel like this one is maybe a bit kind of right over the plate, but I think we need that sometimes, so we're going to do it anyways. Who do you think will be the best player when LeBron retires? From Darwin C 9165641.
That one rolls off the tongue.
Right?
Good job getting that the first time through. Should have laid down a beat for that. Best player in the league when he bounces. It's a good one. I want to say Giannis, but at the same time, KD. At the same time, Kawhi.
See, I that was the same with me. My first instinct was, yeah, of course, Giannis. And then I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, maybe there are other options here.
I am going to say Luka.
See, and I went there too.
I'm going to go with Luka.
Yeah. And Luka's one of those players for me that, like, I don't understand why people hate him so much sometimes.
I love the guy.
And like one of the things I see a lot is like, oh, he's not showing up in fourth quarters. And I'm like, dude is almost averaging a triple in 3 quarters.
Oh, yeah.
Who cares?
Well, and then also he makes the game look so effortless.
Yes.
So like it looks like sometimes he's being lazy, but it's like, no, actually he's doing exactly what he needs to do. He's just that great at his job that it doesn't look like he's trying.
Easy. Yeah, it looks easy. And one of the other things is that people, I think, don't understand the reality of his having played professional basketball in Europe since he was 15 years old.
Yes.
Like, that's a big deal. And he was the leader of that team, those successful teams at 15. So when people say, oh, he's not a leader, I'm like, what?
They have with Porzingis and Luka, they have Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki 2.0.
Yeah.
It's the athletic version of those two.
And their surrounding cast is up and coming to be great role players too.
Oh, yes. It really is. Like, I actually was just playing 2K before we started this, and I'm on Mavs. One of my players is on the Mavs, and the team it's a good group that works together. And it also helps that you have an owner like Cuban that's willing to do things to make it a great culture, to make it to be a team that works.
Yeah. It always comes, like the best teams, it always comes from the top.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been...
Tell Jerry Krause that.
Jerry Krause, James Dolan, this just in.
We'll bleep them out.
All right. Our next tweet comes from @PrimeCarmelo. We got another
Mello. I should have put my Mello jersey on.
It's actually a series of pictures, so I'm going to show you them, and I'm going to scroll through. 1, 2, 3. What do you think?
Stockton never had to be the best player on his team.
That's true.
Chris Paul had to be the best player on his team.
Uh-huh.
And Stockton is still getting the numbers, maybe not points-wise, but everything else still more than CP3.
Yeah.
And Stockton's just a regular white dude. Like,
true that.
He's the dad. He should have been sponsored by New Balance, not Kawhi.
Yeah.
He gets sponsored by New Balance and John Deere lawnmowers and cargo khakis.
That's funny.
Exactly.
So, are you saying CP or are you saying John Stockton?
I'm saying John
Stockton.
Because I think we only saw him playing like half of his ability. Like I said, he never had to be the best player on his team. He could have been.
You're playing on a team with Karl Malone. You get to take the foot off the gas a bit.
That's what I compare offensively. I compare Stockton to Steve Nash, where Steve could have been doing more, but when you have the Amari Stoudemire up and coming, or you have Dirk Nowitzki, you don't have to be the best player on the team.
Right. And that's the beauty of playing as a team.
Exactly.
That you can preserve your energy, and you're going to still do lots, but you don't have to burn yourself out because you have support.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Exactly. Next one. So this one I found super interesting in terms of just having it all broken down. It comes from @JBMOORE. It's supposed to be more, but he uses zeros because it's Twitter and that's how we roll. So it's a breakdown of finals win-loss records for our top people. MJ 24-11 for 685. Tim Duncan 23-11 for 676. Kobe Bryant 23-13 for 638. Steph Curry 17-11 for 604. Shaquille O'Neal 17-13 for 567. Magic 24-26 for 480. And LeBron James 18-31 for 367.
Ouch.
Right?
That last one. Ouch.
So I always find it interesting because for me, like, I don't have one single greatest of all time. I think there's different ones for different eras. And I think there's one for my lifetime, and LeBron is not it. And so seeing the numbers broken down that way, for him to have the highest number of appearances and the worst percentage, like, I get that the appearances mean something. I do. I get that it's hard to get to the finals, but we care about that win-loss ratio in every other aspect of the game. So I thought it was interesting to have it broken down for these guys in this way.
Yeah. Because when you think of, since he has so many games, at least I could picture at least being like kind of like what Magic was, where it was like 24 and 26, maybe. Right. Like, since he's played so many finals games, like I was like, okay, like maybe if he was like 23 and 28 or whatever the numbers would be with it.
At least closer to 500.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's 31%. Ooh, like that's ouchie.
And like, obviously LeBron is an incredible talent. He's done amazing things. But like, when you're going to start, if you want to have the comparing conversation, I think this stuff counts.
Once you talk about greatest of all time, then yes, that stuff counts. But then again, I'm just some dude arm coaching while I'm sitting on a yoga ball. So like, I don't know how much of my point's really going to get to it. But no, when you talk about winning overall, like when you're talking about GOAT, that's the time where you do have to put forth the wins and the losses and the titles.
There's just less overall finals dominance, and it's a drastic less. It's not a little bit less.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot less. So that will lead us into our last tweet for tonight. This one is going to be an exception in that it does not have the hashtag NBA Twitter on it, but it is coming from Spencer Dinwiddie. And he's commenting about Michael Jordan. And I just thought it was kind of interesting. I wanted to see what you thought. So Spencer says, just for added context, so this is a thread, I think MJ had the best prime NBA years of all time, and that Kareem is the basketball GOAT. But y'all thought MJ was a god in the 80s and 90s because he was 6'6" with a 40. I'm 6'6" with a 40 in 2020, and y'all think I'm unathletic.
He's got a point.
You agree with him?
I mean, like I said, he's got a point. I see the argument.
When I thought about it, I thought to myself, sure, you have the same height and you have the same vertical, but do you move the same way?
No, I was talking with my parents about it. Jordan doesn't necessarily jump. He floats.
Right?
I love his dunks, but what I've actually been, as I've watched like The Last Dance and everything, I love his layups.
He has hang time.
Just like, oh, and just switches it in midair. Like, he'll even look at the person like, ball, oh, you missed me. And then just rolls it off his finger.
Yeah. So what I ended up coming to was like, okay, sure, they have some stats in common, but the way that Michael Jordan was athletic is very different than the way Spencer Dinwiddie is.
Yeah, his athleticism is similar to LeBron's, where like, no, that one is just, you were given that.
Right. And you're going to take it hard when the lane is open. And
exactly.
You're going to feel it.
I mean, but like, those are just like, Jordan is just one of those things where like, no, you are just a gifted athlete overall. You were just given this talent.
Yeah.
And Spencer, like, I'm sorry, but come on. Come on. It's Jordan. It's Jordan. Let me see a couple poster dunks. Then we'll talk. I love Spencer Dinwiddie. His little like goatee thing though kind of throws me off because it looks too perfect. Like way too perfect. Like he cut it out of like felt and then like and I love him, but come on.
All right. Well, on that note, that was our last tweet for the night.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you again to anybody who is watching the replay. We'll tweet this again later in the week if you missed it. Check out the podcast, Hardcourt Hunnies. We drop every Tuesday at 1:00. Also, to the ladies of NBA Twitter, if you've ever thought about being on a podcast, we are looking for a second honey. So if you're interested, if you love basketball, if you have lots of knowledge and lots of personality, message us, DM us, and we'll talk about seeing if we can get you on the show as a guest and go from there. Good night.
You get to argue with Jade, and then you get to deal with me.
Wouldn't it be nice? It'll be nice to have someone else to argue with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can only go so much with you. Eventually, it's just like, Jade's wrong again, and I have to break it down again.
I let him think he's breaking it down, people.
Whatever.
Anyways, good night. Have a good rest of your week. We'll see you next week.
Oh.